the spark that lit the void. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of a UES Defiance, watching the stars through reinforced titanium glass. Her fingers drummed against the cold metal railing, each tap echoing the heartbeat of the species that had just learned they were not alone in the universe. 3 months ago, humanity had received its welcoming party from the stars. It came in the form of plasma bolts that turned New Shanghai into a crater and left 7 million people as nothing more than shadows burned into concrete. "Ma'am, we're receiving another transmission from the Hegemony fleet," Lieutenant Marcus Webb announced from his station. His voice carried that particular strain that came from too little sleep and too much coffee. The young officer had aged a decade in the past few weeks, just like everyone else aboard the Defiance. Sarah turned toward the communications array, her jaw set like granite. "Put it through, Lieutenant. Let's hear what our friendly neighbors have to say this time." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the grotesque form of Admiral Zektar, the Hegemony's chief negotiator. If you could call genocide disguised as diplomacy negotiation. The alien's 6 eyes blinked in sequence, while his mandibles clicked with what Sarah had learned was their version of amusement. His exoskeleton gleamed under the artificial lighting of his command ship, each segment designed by evolution to intimidate and destroy. "Greetings, primitive mammals." Zektar's voice crackled through the translator. Even the machine couldn't hide the contempt dripping from every syllable. "The Galactic Hegemony offers you one final opportunity to surrender. Your pathetic species has exactly 72 of your Earth hours to abandon your homeworld. Those who comply will be granted the honor of serving as laborers in our outer colonies. Those who resist will join your friends in New Shanghai." Sarah stepped forward, her brown eyes blazing with fury that could melt steel. "Counteroffer, Bug Boy. How about you and your friends crawl back into whatever cosmic toilet you came from, and we'll pretend this conversation never happened." The alien's mandibles clicked faster now, a sound like breaking glass. "Your sarcasm amuses us, Captain Chen. But humor will not save your species from extinction. We have conquered 47 worlds in this sector alone. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships. Your military is scattered and broken. What could you possibly do against the might of the Hegemony?" "Oh, I don't know," Sarah replied, a smile spreading across her face that would have made a shark nervous. "Maybe we'll improvise. Humans are pretty good at that, you know. We've had lots of practice." The transmission ended with Zektar's mechanical laughter echoing through the bridge. Sarah stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to her crew. 23 men and women who had volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. The Defiance wasn't even a proper warship. She was a research vessel, hastily retrofitted with whatever weapons humanity could scrape together in the 3 months since first contact. "All right, people," Sarah announced, her voice carrying across the bridge like a battle cry. "You heard the roach. 72 hours to save the human race. No pressure." She paused, letting the weight of the situation sink in. "But here's the thing about us humans. We don't know when to quit. We don't know when to lie down and die. And we sure as hell don't know when to show proper respect to self-appointed galactic overlords." A chorus of nervous laughter rippled through the crew. It was the kind of laughter that came before a charge into enemy lines, when fear and determination mixed into something approaching madness. "Commander Torres," Sarah called to her chief engineer, "how's our special project coming along?" Elena Torres looked up from her tablet, grease smeared across her cheek like war paint. "The Railgun is ready for its first test, Captain. I won't lie to you, though. This thing is completely untested. We're basically strapping a linear accelerator to our ship and hoping it doesn't tear us apart when we fire it." "Define ready?" Sarah asked, raising an eyebrow. "Well, we've run every simulation we can think of. The magnetic coils are aligned, the power coupling is stable, and we've reinforced the hull around a firing mechanism. In theory, this baby should accelerate a tungsten rod to approximately 15% the speed of light." Dr. James Park, the mission's physicist, cleared his throat nervously. "Captain, I feel obligated to point out that we're venturing into completely theoretical territory here. The energy requirements alone are staggering. We're essentially turning our entire ship into a weapon." Sarah nodded grimly. What's the worst-case scenario, Doc? We could tear a hole in space-time, create an artificial black hole, or simply vaporize ourselves and everything within a 1,000-kilometer radius. Park adjusted his glasses, a habit that had become more pronounced since the project began. On the bright side, if it works, we'll hit our target with the kinetic energy equivalent of a small nuclear weapon. And if it doesn't work, we'll make a very pretty explosion that the hegemony can use as a warning to other species about the dangers of playing with forces beyond their comprehension. Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. Torres, how long until we reach the hegemony fleet? 18 hours, Captain. They're maintaining position just outside Mars' orbit, probably to give us time to contemplate our inevitable doom. Perfect. That gives us plenty of time to run final checks and make peace with whatever gods we believe in. Sarah turned to face her crew, these brave souls who had volunteered to die for a species that might not even remember their names. Listen up, everyone. I know what we're asking here. I know the odds. But I also know something the hegemony doesn't. She paused, looking each crew member in the eye. Humans don't fight because we think we can win. We fight because some things are worth dying for. And if we're going down, we're taking as many of these alien bastards with us as we can. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines and the soft beeping of various instruments. Then, slowly, applause began to build. Not the polite clapping of a formal ceremony, but the fierce, defiant applause of people who had chosen to face the impossible. Torres, I want every system checked and double-checked. Park, run those simulations one more time. Webb, monitor all hegemony communications. I want to know if they so much as sneeze in our direction. Sarah's voice took on the crisp authority of command. And someone get me a pot of coffee. If we're going to change the course of galactic history, I want to be properly caffeinated when we do it. The next 17 hours passed in a blur of preparation and nervous energy. The crew worked with the focused intensity of people who knew they were living on borrowed time. Every circuit was tested, every calculation verified, every prayer whispered to whoever might be listening. As they approached the hegemony fleet, Sarah found herself standing in the observation deck, staring out at the enemy ships. There were 12 of them, each one the size of a city and bristling with weapons that could reduce planets to cosmic dust. Their hulls gleamed with an oily iridescence that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Impressive, aren't they? Dr. Park had joined her at the viewport. Each of those ships represents technology thousands of years more advanced than anything we have. Thousands of years, Sarah repeated thoughtfully. You know what that means, Doc? That we're completely outmatched? That they've gotten soft. When you're the apex predator for that long, you stop expecting prey to fight back. Sarah smiled grimly. They're about to learn why humans survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We're too stupid to know when we're beaten. The intercom crackled to life. Captain to the bridge. We're receiving another transmission from the hegemony fleet. Sarah made her way back to the bridge, where Admiral Zektar's image once again filled the main screen. This time, his 6 eyes held a different expression. If Sarah had to guess, she'd call it pity. Captain Chen, your 72 hours have expired. We detect no evacuation ships leaving your world. Are you truly prepared to condemn your entire species to extinction for the sake of your primitive pride? Admiral, Sarah replied, settling into her command chair with deliberate casualness. You know what I've learned about your people in the past few months? You talk too much. You monologue like comic book villains. And you clearly never learned the first rule of predator behavior. Zektar's mandibles clicked with curiosity despite himself. And what rule is that, mammal? Sarah's smile could have cut diamond. Never corner something with nothing left to lose. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. Torres, bring the railgun online. Park, begin the charging sequence. Webb, broadcast this on all frequencies. I want everyone in the galaxy to hear what happens next. The lights dimmed as massive amounts of power were redirected to the weapon systems. The ship's hull began to vibrate with barely contained energy, and Sarah could feel the Defiance transforming from a research vessel into something entirely new, something dangerous. Railgun charge and ready, Captain, Torres reported, her voice tight with concentration. Target locked on the Hegemony flagship. All systems green, Park added. Power levels are holding steady. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Sarah stood up, her hand hovering over the firing control. In the distance, the Hegemony fleet continued its stately advance toward Earth, confident in their superiority and secure in their belief that nothing could threaten them. They were about to learn how wrong they were. This is Captain Sarah Chen of a United Earthship Defiance. She spoke into the open communication channel. To any species listening across the galaxy, remember this moment. Remember that when humanity was pushed to the edge of extinction, we didn't beg. We didn't surrender. We pushed back. Her hand slammed down on the firing control. The universe held its breath, the echo that shook eternity. What happened next would be debated by xenobiologists, physicists, and philosophers for the next 1,000 years. The tungsten rod, accelerated to 15% light speed, struck the Hegemony flagship with the force of a divine thunderbolt. For a fraction of a second, space itself seemed to bend around the impact point. The flagship shields, designed to withstand plasma cannons and antimatter warheads, collapsed like tissue paper in a hurricane. The rod punched through the ship's hull as if it were made of cardboard, creating a perfectly cylindrical hole that glowed white-hot with displaced energy. But the real devastation came from the kinetic transfer. The massive alien vessel, over 3 kilometers long and housing 50,000 Hegemony personnel, simply disintegrated. Not exploded, disintegrated. The ship came apart at the molecular level, its constituent atoms scattered across a sphere of space roughly the size of Earth's moon. What had been the pride of the Hegemony fleet became an expanding cloud of superheated plasma that painted the void in brilliant crimson and gold. "Holy Mary, Mother of God," Lieutenant Webb whispered, his face pressed against the viewport. "Did we just do that?" The remaining 11 Hegemony ships had stopped their advance. For the first time in their species' recorded history, they encountered something that genuinely surprised them, something that had reached out from a primitive world and swatted one of their capital ships like a bothersome insect. On the bridge of the Defiance, Sarah Chen allowed herself exactly 3 seconds of satisfaction before reality reasserted itself. "Torres, how long until we can fire again?" 47 minutes, Captain. The magnetic coils need time to cool down, and we have to realign the entire targeting system. Torres wiped sweat from her forehead, leaving another streak of grease. That shot drained 60% of our power reserves. Then we better make the next one count. Sarah turned to the communication station. "Webb, are we receiving any transmissions from the Hegemony fleet?" "Yes, ma'am. Multiple frequencies, all encrypted. But, Captain, there's something else. We're getting signals from across the galaxy. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds." Dr. Park looked up from his instruments, his face pale with wonder and terror. "Captain, the energy signature from our railgun shot is propagating through subspace at faster-than-light speeds. Every species with FTL sensors within 50 light-years just detected what we did." Sarah nodded grimly. "And what exactly did we do, Doc?" "Give me the technical breakdown." "We fired a projectile with more kinetic energy than most civilizations use in a year. The impact created gravitational waves that are rippling through local space-time. We essentially announced to the galaxy that Earth possesses weapons technology that violates several known laws of physics." "Laws that the Hegemony wrote," Sarah added with grim satisfaction. "I bet they're having a fascinating conversation right about now." She was right. Aboard the Hegemony command vessel Eternal Dominion, Admiral Zektar was experiencing something his species had no word for because they had never needed one. Terror. "Scan those readings again," he commanded his science officer, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "There must be an error. I have run the analysis 17 times. Admiral, the energy output is confirmed. The humans have somehow weaponized linear acceleration to achieve near-relativistic velocities. The kinetic impact exceeded our shield capacity by a factor of 12. Zektar's 6 eyes focused on a debris field that had been the flagship inexorable will. 50,000 of the Hegemony's finest warriors reduced to constituent atoms in less than a second. It was impossible. It violated everything they knew about primitive species development. "Sir," his communications officer announced, "we are receiving priority transmissions from Hegemony High Command. Also, the Valders Confederacy, the Nexus Collective, and Eternal Empire are all requesting immediate diplomatic contact." The Admiral's blood ran cold. The Valders Confederacy had been neutral for 3 centuries. The Nexus Collective had never contacted the Hegemony directly, and the Eternal Empire, they were legends, spoken of in whispers as the species that had ascended beyond physical form millennia ago. "Put High Command through," Zektar ordered. The face that appeared on his screen belonged to Supreme Chancellor Mordek, the highest-ranking official in Hegemony space. Her ancient features were twisted with something Zektar had never seen there before. "Fear. Admiral, you will immediately cease all hostile actions against the human homeworld. You will withdraw your fleet to a minimum safe distance and await further orders. Chancellor, with respect, they destroyed one ship with a lucky shot. We still have overwhelming superiority." "A lucky shot?" Mordek's laugh was like breaking glass. "Admiral, that lucky shot has been detected by every major power in this arm of the galaxy. The energy signature suggests the humans have developed weapons technology that we cannot counter. Worse, if they can accelerate matter to those velocities, they possess the theoretical capability to achieve faster-than-light travel without the standard dimensional gateways." Zektar felt his world shifting beneath him. "That's impossible. Our physicists have proven that such technology requires computational resources that would take millennia to develop. Then either our physicists are wrong, or the humans are not as primitive as we assumed." The Chancellor leaned forward, her image crackling with the strain of the long-distance transmission. "You have new orders, Admiral. You will request immediate parley with the human forces. You will negotiate a ceasefire, and you will treat them as equals." The transmission ended, leaving Zektar staring at a blank screen. In the space of 1 hour, everything had changed. The humans, whom they had dismissed as barely sentient mammals, had just rewritten the rules of galactic warfare. Meanwhile, back on the Defiance, Sarah Chen was discovering that success could be more terrifying than failure. "Captain, we're being hailed by the Hegemony fleet," Webb reported. "Admiral Zektar is requesting immediate parley under the Galactic Convention of Neutral Space." "Is that what I think it is?" Sarah asked. Dr. Park nodded, consulting his tablet. "It's a formal request for ceasefire negotiations. Under galactic law, it means they're recognizing us as equals. It's usually only invoked between major powers." Sarah laughed, but it was the laughter of someone balancing on the edge of hysteria. "Equals. 3 months ago, they were calling us talking apes. Now we're equals." She turned to her crew. "Torres, what's the status on our railgun?" "Cooling down as expected, Captain. But I've been thinking, if we're going to be negotiating with these aliens, we need to understand something important. That shot we fired, it wasn't just a weapon. It was a message." "What kind of message?" Torres pointed to her instruments. "The energy output, the velocity achieved, the precision of the impact. To any species monitoring this event, it looks like we have technology that's generations ahead of where we should be. They don't know this was essentially a one-shot prototype held together with prayers and determination." Sarah considered this. "So they think we have an entire arsenal of these weapons?" "Worse, they think we have the industrial capacity to mass-produce them. From their perspective, a species that can fire relativistic projectiles must have mastered energy manipulation, materials science, and computational mathematics far beyond their own capabilities." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. Humanity had just bluffed its way to the galactic poker table with a hand they couldn't sustain. But the other players didn't know that. "Webb, open a channel to Admiral Zektar. Let's see what our new equal has to say." The alien admiral appeared on screen, but his demeanor had changed completely. Gone was the arrogant superiority, replaced by something that looked almost like respect. "Captain Chen, I am authorized to offer immediate ceasefire and to begin negotiations for a formal peace treaty between Hegemony and the United Earth Government." Sarah kept her expression neutral, though inside she was screaming with relief. "What terms are you proposing, Admiral?" full recognition of human sovereignty over your star system, immediate establishment of diplomatic relations, and inclusion in the Galactic Trade Federation. Zektar paused, his mandibles clicking nervously. In exchange, the Hegemony requests assurances that Earth will not deploy relativistic weapons against Hegemony worlds or shipping. Sarah pretended to consider this, though her heart was racing. They were offering everything humanity needed to survive and thrive among the stars, all because of one impossible shot that had announced to the galaxy that humans were not to be trifled with. "I'll need to consult with Earth Command," she replied. "But these terms seem reasonable. As a gesture of good faith, we will not fire on Hegemony vessels while negotiations are ongoing." It was a promise she could keep, since they needed 40 more minutes before the Railgun would be operational again anyway. After the transmission ended, the bridge erupted in celebration. Cheers, laughter, and tears of relief filled the air as the crew realized they had not only survived but achieved the impossible. But Sarah Chen stood apart from the celebration, staring out at the stars with the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. In the space of a few hours, humanity had gone from extinction to galactic recognition. They had bluffed their way to survival with a weapon they could barely fire once. "Captain," Dr. Park approached her quietly, "there's something else you should know. The subspace energy signature from our railgun is still propagating across the galaxy. Every hour, more species are detecting it. The communications board is lighting up with contact requests from civilizations we've never heard of. What are they saying? Most want to establish diplomatic relations. Some are offering trade agreements. A few are requesting military alliances." Park paused, adjusting his glasses. "And there are others, species that have apparently been hiding from the Hegemony for centuries. They're coming out of the shadows because they think we represent a new power that can challenge the established order." Sarah nodded slowly. "So we've accidentally started a galactic revolution." "It appears so, Captain." She turned back to her crew, these 23 humans who had volunteered for a suicide mission and instead changed the course of galactic history. They were still celebrating, still processing the magnitude of what they had accomplished. "Listen up, everyone," Sarah called out, and the bridge fell silent. "What we did today was incredible. We saved our species and earned our place among the stars. But our work is just beginning." She gestured toward the vast expanse of space visible through the viewport. "Out there, dozens of species are watching us. Some see us as saviors, others as threats, and a few as opportunities. We've announced to the galaxy that humanity has arrived, and we can't take that back." The crew listened intently, understanding that their captain was about to change their lives once again. "When we get back to Earth, our world is going to change in ways we can barely imagine. We'll have alien diplomats, trade agreements, and technological exchanges that will revolutionize human civilization. But we'll also have responsibilities we never asked for." Sarah paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "The galaxy has been watching us for 3 months. They've seen how we respond to extinction. They've seen that humans don't surrender, don't give up, and don't back down from a fight. That reputation is going to precede us wherever we go." She smiled then, the fierce grin of a predator who had just realized she was apex after all. "And you know what? I think I'm okay with that. Let them know that humans fight. Let them know that we don't kneel to anyone. Let them know that when you corner something with nothing left to lose, you better be prepared for the consequences." The bridge erupted in cheers once again, but this time it was different. This time it was the sound of a species that had found its place in the universe and was ready to claim it. As the Defiance began its journey back to Earth, carrying news that would change everything, the galaxy continued to buzz with activity. Ancient powers stirred from their slumber. Hidden civilizations emerged from the shadows. Trade routes were redrawn, alliances reconsidered, and the entire balance of galactic power shifted. All because 24 humans had refused to go quietly into the night. All because humanity had fired its first railgun, and the galaxy had gone silent to listen. The age of human expansion had begun, and the stars would never be the same.